Hello 1134 subscribers. Today we're going to build a fully functional AI sales agent for one of our clients from scratch. It will be able to interact with their ERP management system called SAP Business One, log in their salespeople, retrieve information about customer accounts, and generate reports based on this information. Now, let's actually build the logic first, and then we'll go and connect different tools together. So first, we have a sales agent, because this assistant is made for the internal use for their salespeople. So the final goal is, let's say, to generate a summary about the information that was retrieved about the customer account. So obviously we will use Voiceflow here. So let's call it Voiceflow. So the sales agent interact with Voiceflow. So let's say he says something like, I want to get info about a client, something like that. So we also have SAP Business One as an ERP management system that our wholesale client use. So this information about the client accounts is stored in the SAP Business One. In order to receive it, we need to have an identification from the customer. So it's either an email or an account number. In SAP, it's called card code. So let's stick with the card code first. So essentially, we want to get card code. But before that, okay, so get card code, SAP Business One, Voiceflow. So Voiceflow here. But before, obviously, this is not the agent that will be used externally. So we don't need to put too much like security protocols there, but the login feature is made for the management purposes. So let's say when the sales agent says that and asks about the information, we want to log in this agent to make sure that he can retrieve this information. So we will ask for login password. Again, you can do login password thing through Voiceflow in a lot of different ways. Obviously, just the very standard that we're going to use using Airtable is not super encrypted, but again, this is not for the sake of security, it's more for the sake of separating their workflows. So we will use the Airtable. Now, so when the sales agent asks for information about the client, we will ask about the login and password. When we ask for this information, it will be connected to Airtable. Check. Okay, so how? So we will add make here because it's going to be connected through make. So essentially, make.com. So essentially, before connecting to Airtable, so we can obviously connect to Airtable right away using APIs, but this is like make is just easier, and the real use case will probably connect it right away. Anyways, so when we'll ask for the login password, let's say we ask for this information, then here user provide login password, then we send this information to make, right, as a webhook. Then inside make, we will connect to Airtable, search for a record. So let's say there will be a table with all of the sales members, and if the login and password match the information that was provided here, we will, send this information back to, let's say, Voiceflow and continue the scenario. So let's say then user logged in. Okay, so now when the user logged in, we want to ask about the card code. So get the card code. Okay, so or what is the user card code, something like that. Now, so when we do have a card code, essentially we need to connect to SAP Business One, pass kind of like a webhook. We need to send the API request with the card code and verify if this information, if the customer is valid, if he exists in the database, and if he is, then retrieve information back with the customer information. And here's, guys, the biggest problem that we experienced. SAP is very old school software. It's a huge company, but it's not like a HubSpot. They don't have, public APIs available to everyone. That's why we've been actually going back and forth with the client for probably 2 months to again, that was all done by my developers, but I think it's called API service layer, which allows us to access this SAP infrastructure and this SAP account. Now, so in order to do that, we have, let's say I have and I'll show you basically some of the information that will be sensitive, I will blur, or we will just, replace everything after the tutorial is done. So essentially, instead of, let's say we have an endpoint of the SAP, instead of connecting directly to SAP, we will use BuildShip. BuildShip is a software to connect different apps together, like an backend tool that you can use. I was thinking about using Postman, or Voiceflow has its own capabilities to send API requests. The problem is that since this is the prototype, they don't have the SSL certificates, and it's kind of getting hard to get the right information. Anyways, so we will use BuildShip. So when we have all this information with the card code, we will send this info to BuildShip. BuildShip will have 2 API requests. The first API request is okay, so the first API is to get session ID. Essentially, this is like a login thing that the service layer of SAP use. And then the second thing, we will use the API to get card code information. Again, guys, if you don't know how to code, don't worry. So I also don't, and I was able to understand what they built, and that's why if you're looking this video, we built it successfully live on this channel, so it should be good. Now let's say this is the voice flow, this interaction happening in the voice flow, then we have the card code, we're sending the information to the BuildShip. BuildShip send both of these codes to SAP. Okay, then SAP returns the information to the BuildShip. And then let's say BuildShip send this information back to Voiceflow. Okay, and now we kind of have the account info. Okay, so now inside the Voiceflow we have the account info. Then the easiest part is to connect it. Let's say what to do with this info. So let's say we want to, as I said, generate the report. This is one of the prototypes that we are building for them. So they don't really need the report generation thing. But for the sake of this example, it will be easier for you to understand how you can actually interact with the data that you retrieved from the management software. So again, we'll do it through Make. And for the document creation tool, we will use an app called Documentera. It's actually the pre-built Make app that you can build the templates on and then generate different documents from these templates. And then we will, let's say, have this information and pass it back to Voiceflow or do whatever we want with this info. Okay, so this is kind of a pretty understandable scenario. We have the Voiceflow. We first authenticate whatever the user by login and password. Then when the information is correct, we are asking what exactly the salesperson is looking for. For this case, we'll stick to just the general account information based on the card code. When we have the card code, we'll send the request to BuildShip, call the APIs, connect to the Business One, get back, pass it to Voiceflow, and then generate the document. Okay, so here, as you can see, guys, I have quite a few different things as references that we will use so that, again, it's just easier for me to do. But for you, I mean, it's a cheat code. First link in the description, there is my free resource hub. Obviously, all of the templates from Airtable, Make, Voiceflow, and BuildShip will be available there. So just go and download it and import into your project so you can follow through. But okay, so let's actually go to Voiceflow and let's create everything from scratch. We will start with very simple scenario and we'll go one by one. Okay, so let me actually duplicate this thing so that maybe some functions as well as variables are already set. So let's rename it something like a YouTube demo. Okay, now the workflow. Okay, so we have ended this thing. Okay, so we don't need it, so that we actually need it, but not right now. Okay, so let's start building. Obviously, we'll start with a response AI, like creating the user, capture the user reply. Capture the user reply. We will, as always, use the custom memory function. It should be already here. So if you go to custom function, this is not custom actions, sorry, the functions, and we have a memory function. So if you download this template, it will be available here in memory, or you can just go here, export it, and import into your project. This function will allow us to save all the conversation history if we need it in the one custom variable. Okay, so now we need to map the variables. Last utterance is what we provide to the bot, like our questions. So kind of last utterance. Previous custom memory, this is the custom memory. So like we save this conversation in custom memory, and then the next step, when we need it, we need to do that again. We are just referencing it one more time. Last response. This is actually what the bot responds. And okay, so custom memory. Now, so we will save it. So the user might say, hi, how are you? Okay, so then we'll response AI again, like answer the user question, last utterance. Okay, so we don't need the model. Again, so similar thing. We will capture the response. We'll duplicate it here. And we'll go back. Anyways, so this is kind of the loop. Now, let's say the sales agent says something like, I want to get information about the client account. Because in the real use case, there will be a lot of different intents that we're going to use, but this is book table. Okay, so this is from one of the previous projects. So let's call this intent account info, account information, like trigger this intent when a user want to get information about client accounts. I want to get accounts info, account info, send me account information, account information view, something like that. So, okay, so let's do 10 different utterances. Let's create the intent, and for the classification, LLM, Claude 3.5. Now, when we go to our project, we'll create the trigger, and in the trigger, we'll use the account information. Now, so when the user will say something like, I want to get the information about the account, it will go here. Now, if you check this thing, now, first, we need to actually verify the information and verify this agent. Again, It's very controversial, so you might think that Eugene, so you need to have like very complex login workflow so that it doesn't get hacked. But again, this will be only available for the sales members, and they like still do have access to all of the information about all of the business. But again, this is what was one of the requirements from the clients. That's why we're doing that, and then maybe we will like add some more features on top. So for the actual login, how I want to do that is I want to ask the user like to provide a form, right? So like a form, okay, so put your login, put your password. The problem is that Voiceflow natively doesn't support forms, so we need to use custom actions. Sorry. And I have a candidate template, and I had one of the videos on my channel where I was covering them sign-in setup. So I can just copy and paste it here again, guys. Yeah, so these are kind of my cheat codes, but again, like you have the full template available for free, so it's even easier for you now. So here we'll ask, okay, so user needs to log in, ask for the user login information, login and password, one sentence, whatever. So, and here are kind of two options. Do you remember? Ask if he remember his login. Like maybe the user doesn't remember his password. Okay, so no, it will go to a separate set of steps. So let's remove the no, we don't actually need it. So yes, I remember. Awesome. Now it will show them a form. This is kind of this is a custom action called ext form. The thing is that it will work on the embed block. So this is one of the pages on my website. It's built on Framer. So as you can see, this is the new page, and here I have an embed block. And in the embed block, I use this code. So this code, so like essentially if I remove it, it's nothing here. And if I paste it, this will be the bot. And like when I publish it, we will be able to see the form. This is what we're gonna do. But the thing, like this code, again, will be available in my resource hub, but the only thing that you actually need to do is you need to change your project ID here. So let's go to the settings and let's actually copy the project ID and go and find it. It's here. Okay. So when we do this, okay, no, sorry, it's here. Yeah, okay. So, and now let's actually make it a bit larger, so 700 pixels. Okay, so now when we publish this thing, we will see the okay, so what did I do? We will see the form on the website. Let me actually finish this part so that it's easier to test. Now it will display the user a form with a login and password information. Let's actually test this out. Yeah. This will be easier for you to see. Okay. Okay, so if we start this flow, it will, it will not, since it's not published. We need to publish this first and then test it out. Okay, so if we end the chat, start a new chat, it will greeting, we can say hi, then we say I want to get account information. Should send us to the flow. Do you remember the login and password? We say yes, and it will show us the form. Okay, so this is the form that it renders using this custom action. And again, if you just paste this thing, it will not work. So you need to paste like this specific code to reference this custom action. Anyways, so here we save the login information in the login variable and the password information in the password variable so that we can reference it further. Now, so the next step, let's say that we have the login and password information in the variables. We need to send an API call block to make. Okay, so this is like kind of the scenario, but let's actually build it from scratch. I'll go to make.com, whatever, scenarios add. Okay, so we will do a request a second. Okay, so we will use a webhook, custom webhook, add, save. Now we have the webhook. So here we will kind of do the post, provide this information, and in the body, we'll put raw. And here, okay, so it's like format JSON so that it's easier to understand. Where is that? JSON format. Jesus Christ. Okay. So that I don't mess it up. Okay, yeah, so we can actually pass it as a parameters instead of the body. So let's say we pass it as login, and it will be in do we have it? No. So we don't actually have the variable. We need to set it up. So obviously this will save the information in the variable, but if the variables are not created in the project inside Voiceflow, it's not going to work. So we will add another parameter called password, and let's call it password. Password. Okay. So now we will, let's say, send login password. It's not actually doing that. Okay, so yeah, let's say whatever and whatever. So if we test this thing, it should pass this info here. Okay, so this is the info. Now, let's say this is the information that we receive from the webhook. Now we need to verify this information through an Airtable. And actually, okay, so guys, let me just copy this thing and paste it here so that, again, it's easier. By the way, don't worry, I will export this blueprint and import it in my resource app so that it's easier for you. Now, we will search for the records. Let's go to Airtable, or I have it here. Okay, so I will go and create a new base. So let's say this is a sales base, something like that. So this will be a base where all the information about our sales team will be stored and accurate. Okay, so let's refresh the page. Okay. So let's say the name will be the name of the person, the name and whatever. Let's say the email, and the email will be like a login. Okay. And let's say the password will be single password. Okay, whatever. And yeah, so we don't need anything else. So let's say James Duncan, whatever, if this is the actual Duncan. Let's say gmail.com, and let's call it tools 1 2 3 4. Okay, so this, and let's do Jenny Kanzen, whatever, Jenny at gmail.com, and let's do like flowers 1 2 3 4. Okay, so this is not Gina Kanzen. Okay, so this is kind of our base where the information about our sales members stored. So now we need to choose the base. This is demo and sales base. We're using the action called search records of the Airtable. So we'll use the sales base. So the table is called the table 1, right? So this is the table 1. And now this is the interesting part. So we need to filter only the records that will have this information. So like the login and the password. So like kind of this is the formula that we can use. Okay, so let me just copy it, go here. So we will output all the fields in our response so that we can maybe use them. We don't need any fields. And okay, so we have it. So in the login, we will use, this is kind of the login, and the password is the password. But these are kind of the fields, email 1, but we have just email, so we can maybe remove 1. and the password is the password. Okay, so now it will check all the fields that has, login in the, like, this specific thing in the, in the email field, and also the password, this specific thing in this field. And if both of them are true, it will go to the next step. Now it will kind of aggregate the values. Okay, so we don't actually need that. We don't need the JSON transform. Okay, so let's test it and see. Okay, so what's that? Okay, sorry. Let's actually stop. What's that? Import true. Okay, so it's a bug. Okay, if we let's send a request and let's get my email, let's paste it here, and let's get my password, let's paste it here, generate. Okay, so it found James Duncan. Now when it found this information, we can kind of go further. We don't actually need that. So there should be two parts, right? So there should be something like a router. Okay, well, let's actually remove this router. So we have two routes, if the record was found or if it was not found. So let's say, okay, so how does the response look? Okay, so name. So let's say if the setup the filter, if the filter total number of bundles. Okay, so we can do total number of bundles is numeric equals to 1. So it will say kinda JSON response success, something like that. Okay, and if it's not, so let's say that this is numeric not equal to 1, whatever, it will do the same thing. Okay, so it will do kind of the same thing, but it will be error. Okay, let's what did I do? Okay, so I don't need that. Yeah. Okay, so let's actually test this thing out. Let's resend it. It go here, and we should receive a success. Okay, so we did not, yeah, because we need to format the response a bit differently. Okay, let's actually, before we, resend it. So send. So let's actually say that 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5, 6. So let's say that this is the wrong password. Okay, so it went here, but the response actually was not. Yeah, it's not here. I think it's because we need to structure the response a bit differently. Okay, yeah, so I messed it up a bit because you need to like kind of transform the object before you actually do the webhook response, I guess. So we add like the transform JSON, so you're transforming the error and then you're transforming the success. Yeah, guys, like you can obviously do it here, but I find it a bit like faster and more straightforward approach. Anyways, so right now, if we test it out again, so if we send the wrong approach, the wrong credentials, you can see that we are getting the error. And let's say if we send something that is correct here, we will have the success. Okay, so now if we capture the, what's the response? Yeah, I think this is the response. Okay. So we can capture the response using the response key and save it in the, okay, where is it? Okay, so let's actually save it in the, let's say, response AI, response AI variable. Okay, anyways, yeah, so when we have this one, we need to stringify the value. Where is the stringify the value information? Okay, so like this, in order to reference it. So now we will stringify this specific variable. Okay. So we have the response, right? Response AI, API, whatever. Okay, so this is the response AI, and we are string define the response AI using this specific thing when it's done, and when we output the response AI, we should get either error or either the success. Okay, so let's actually test this thing. And then we'll set like a condition block, check, okay, so if the response AI variable is success, do this, and if it's error, do that. Now, if we end the chat, start a new, get account information, something like that, and if we provide this, yes, I remember. Okay, so this is my login and this is my password. Okay, so I forgot to run it. Anyways, response success. Okay, response success or response error, you can clear it out, obviously, but to make it faster, guys, I think this tutorial will be for like 3 hours. Okay, so then we can do the logic condition. So, and if the condition variable response AI is, let's say this success, okay, we'll do 1, or add another condition if the variable response AI is, let's say, error. Again, you can clear it, but okay, so let's put it like that. So if it's success, do one thing, and if it's error, do, okay, so like that is bad. Okay, not gonna proceed with this flow. Now, so let's say the user logged in and now can get all the information about the clients. So now, depending on the user question and the sales member question, we will, in the final version, we will send down to kind of different flows. So like we can say, okay, we can say choose what you need to do. Okay, so no, kind of they already said, right, that they want to get the account information, so this is kind of not relevant. So we can say, okay, like response AI, you know that I love to use it instead of just static text blocks. So we can say, please ask the user to provide, a card code of the client he is looking for. This is a must, like add one emoji, be short and straightforward, something like that. Okay, so now, and we will wait for the response capture. But we will not capture this thing into the card code variable so that it's not, because sometimes and this is what will usually happen, the people will say, oh, okay, so this is the customer card code and this is the code. So if we save everything, it we cannot like reference it further. So when we have this information, we can do the set AI and ask and do something like that. Okay, so we can use memory and prompt, but then, okay, so I actually forgot to use the memory steps. So when the customer clicks this information, we need to update after each action that the user does in the chat. We want to update the memory so that it's up to date. Okay, so here, and now we need to duplicate this scenario also here. Okay, so here. Now, so we will ask AI to analyze. So like goal, you need to analyze last user utterance and output the card code of the client. Rules. First, you must always, and I usually do like only output card code, 4-digit number. So let's do never output anything besides the card code 4-digit number. No additional characters, no words or symbols. Okay, so, and we can, use, let's say, for the reference, we can use that's why I was saying you need to update the memory. We can use, here is the conversation history for your reference. And here's what we usually do. So like this, open the tag and say conversation history. Okay, something like that. And then we can do another tag. This is the closing one. And now here between them, we will put the custom memory variable. Now, actually, we don't need it because we will, for this specific example, we will provide the card code here. But okay, so that you have it. And now we will save this thing into the card. I think we have it already. Card. No? Anyways, card code. It's very important to put the highest model possible and to lower the temperature so that it doesn't do weird things. And in the rules, we can kind of duplicate it in the system prompt just in case. Okay, now guys, now the fun part begins. When we have the card code, if we go back, okay, so when we have as the user login, so we did this thing, okay? Now, we are doing this. So now we need to connect to the BuildShip and then connect to the SAP Business One. Okay, so let's go to BuildShip. BuildShip is an awesome app and you will see why. They have a pretty good AI built functionalities and it's kind of easy to build very complex things. So YouTube demo, okay. This is the demo SAP reference that we can use, but let's actually start from scratch. So let's think about it. When we have the card code, right? When we have the card code, we need to trigger. So let's say here, we will build a scenario that will connect to the SAP Business One of the client, okay? So in order to do that, you need to do the 2 API calls, as I explained right here, okay? I actually wanted to show you, I have on the desktop how the SAP actually looks on the backend, but I think I will not. First, because it's kind of sensitive information, and the second one, okay, so I will actually here right now on the screen, you can see how it looks on the backend. So this client, again, I just, I'm trying to guys provide you as much information as I can, so I might blur some info. So the client provided us our remote desktop for managing their SAP. Again, this is, as I already mentioned, this is the biggest problem in this project, to connect to the SAP properly. So they cannot just provide us a user access. They need to create different layers to provide us an access to the certain information. So we are accessing their SAP through remote desktop, and on the remote desktop they have an SAP Business One client, but the API side is kind of built differently. Okay. Anyways, now. So back to the screen. We need to do the 2 API calls. And I have a documentation which was actually built by one of like our developers internally. He was communicating with their SAP implementation team, because obviously they are pretty big business and they have like SAP providers. Again, guys, this is a super confusing thing. So they don't even manage it themselves. So they have like the partners, the SAP partners, which are official partners in their country, in Canada, that are allowing them to access like the functionality of the service. Anyways, so our developers were communicating with them to build the API documentation. Again, for right now, it's very basic. As you can see here, where is it? Okay, so here I will probably blur some information, but this is kind of a very simple flow on how, like, with the endpoints and with the body and with the request that we need to do in order to access some information. Okay, so in the BuildShip, we first will create the scenario, and REST API will be our trigger, kind of like a webhook. So this is, and we need to do, I think, the GET request. Okay, so this will be our webhook, and when we ship it, it will be available through the, the link. And here in our project, we will do the dev API request. Okay, so we'll use GET, we'll provide the information here, and in the parameters, we will use card code, and we will pass the card code which was collected from this specific step and saved in the card code variable. We'll pass it to the BuildShip. Okay. So now, but in order for BuildShip to reference this information, you need to go to the edits, and I think it's in the request query. So you do the card code. So like it will expect the query parameter called card code. Okay. Now the fun part. You can go and build it manually, and this is what we've been actually trying to do, and this is like how it's currently set up on the actual prototype that we are providing to the client, like using this calls. But guys, we are no coders, right? So that's why I mentioned that the BuildShip is awesome. They have an cool AI that can build the thing on the backend for you. Okay, so let's say giving the two API endpoints, because we have the 2 API endpoints. I want to what do we want to do? I want to get I want to get a response. I want to know, so like I want to, in return, I want to connect into SAP Business One through APIs, whatever. I think you can do a better job into the explaining this thing. In return, the client, the business partner information. Okay, so this is like kind of the actual context. I have two endpoints that I want to use. This is how the logic should be. First, we need to call endpoint number 1 to get the session ID. Okay, so, and I will provide it a bit later so that, again, I will blur this information. But essentially, since these are two separate API calls, the first API call is made to get the session ID. It's like for the verification. So we need to get the session ID. Second, when from the output, from the response, you need to save the session ID into the variable 3. Okay, so let's actually go here and let's put it. Okay, so this is kind of the URL of the This is kind of the URL of the first response. So endpoint this. And actually, like, I have it here. So this is the body. This is the postman. This is where I was testing the request. Again, guys, some information will be blurred, some not. So don't pay too much attention here. So this is the endpoint. And here we say this is the body of the request. Okay, so this is the body. This is how the output looks. And obviously I am testing this thing using Postman. So when I send it, I receive a request here. So this is how the output request looks like. And I provide it here. So here I have a session ID. So that's why in the second step from the response, you need to get the session, how it's called, session ID parameter, and save it in the session ID variable, something like that. Okay, so when we have this session ID variable, then we will use the second API call. And the second API call is called like get business partner details. The clients in SAP Business One called business partners, not clients. So that's why we are kind of getting the business partner information. Okay, so here, then you need to start the second API call. This is the endpoint. This is the endpoint, okay? And you do not need to put body, but in the headers, you need to use, and here is very important. So here we need to provide the cookie header, with value, and this is the value. And here is the business session, and we need to actually dynamically change it. So session ID, where session ID is the value that you captured from the first API response. Okay, now we kind of like, it will create the logic behind it and do two calls, but the only thing that is left is to kind of here, because this is where like business partner, this is the endpoint and business partner, and this is like the number of the business partner that we are capturing and passing to the BuildShip. So this 4-digit number, and we need to ask so that we can input it dynamically. As you can see in the on the second API request, the number is a business partner card code. It must be dynamic, not static, so that we can use a variable called card code to reference it. Okay, so now let's generate the thing and let's see what it gives us. We'll go one by one. I think it will actually create just one block with multiple parameters, with just one parameter. Okay, so if we go to code, as you can see, it wrote this code, but we're not gonna test this thing but let's actually see. Okay, so if we do 1001 and let's test it and let's hope for the best. It should do 2 separate API calls, get the session ID, and then using this session ID, make a second call, request failed, okay, so unable to verify. Okay, this is the very important info. I forgot to mention that both of these requests need to have the SSL verify and like disabled. So in the Postman, when you do the request in the settings, you can it's actually disabled, I think, by default. And if you want enable SSL certificate verification, you can enable it here. The problem is that when you are making the API request using the Voiceflow, it's enabled by default and you cannot disable it. I mean, maybe you can do that using custom functions, but it's kind of hassle. So this is where here, as you can see, we need to modify it. Please, okay, please disable SSL certificate check for both of the API calls. Okay, so now we provided the AI in instruction what to do with the code since we are receiving an error, and it will modify the code on the backend and it should work, I guess. Okay, so let's see. Let's actually see. It's gonna work. It's running the node. Okay, so yeah, we are getting this information. In order to do that like manually, what you need to do is since you have the card code, right? So in the settings, in the request, you have the card code. Yeah, I think query parameter. No, so it's I made a mistake. Okay, so query, but here you need to add query parameter called card code. So card code. Okay, so you save it here, and it will be in suggested since again this is like this field called card code, and you have a variable called card code. Okay, now so it will when we are passing the information here, we will pass the card code in the parameter, and it will be inputted here. It will run both of these API requests. Okay, and we just need to return the value, and what value we want to return, the business partner information. I think it should be it. Let's go and let's press ship. Now we will receive this endpoint. So when we copy this endpoint and go here, okay, we go here when we send a request. So let's now 1002. So this is the card code, and it will run this scenario on BuildShip and with this specific card code, and we'll try to get the information about this customer. Business code label information from SAP Business One. Okay, so this is business information in SAP Business One. I think it's returning the wrong value here. Okay guys, I actually redo the full flow so that it's easier to see on the password and login and the card code information that we're getting, but it's kind of the same thing, right? So we are in the request, in the query, we are passing the card code parameter. Now, so if we save it and ship this thing, we are getting the user in another workflow, so it's in different path, testing already. Okay, so let's actually delete this one so that it's easier. It should be good now. We should receive a different endpoint. Okay, so we have a different endpoint. And if we go here in the endpoint, we are passing the variable. So let's say 1.5. Okay. Now it seems like it's running the request properly. Okay, so, and it is returning the customer 0.5. Okay, awesome. Now, we have the full information about the customer account with all the different things, right? Now, since, as you can see, okay, so let's run it again. It's like 1,000 different things, right? So that's like a lot. what we would do usually is just to save this whole thing into one variable and then let AI to decide what information we need to get. So let's say, for example, here we're asking what is the question about the account, and then now we kind of have all the information about the account, and AI can answer all of the questions based on the reference information that we got from the SAP. But the problem is that there's too much info. Okay, so we can use just the simple JavaScript doc to filter this information and save only the info that we need. And I actually have it somewhere here, I think. Yeah. Oh, okay. So it's here. So this is kind of okay. We actually did it. Okay. So let's paste it here. Now, this is a JavaScript, and what it's doing is we need to first capture the response in the, it's like the whole thing we're capturing in the, I think, API. Okay, whatever. API response variable. And then we're asking JavaScript to analyze this API response variable and retrieve address, zip code, phone, contact person, email, and account balance. So we're kind of getting the information from the whole API response, saving it in the variables, and then we can, let's say, reference these variables here. Okay, so, and we will actually use these variables to, to in the next step. But here let's test this bot to see how it's gonna behave, because for the most part it's done, I think, this part. So we are logging in the salesperson, we're getting the information from the SAP, and then we can kind of answer all the question about the customer accounts. Okay, so let's okay, where is it? Let's reload this thing and let's go from scratch. Let's see how it's gonna work. Okay, we can say, hi, how are you doing today? Something like that. I want to get information about client account, something like that. Now it will ask us if we remember our password. Okay, so let's say yes, and let's actually use another one. So this is the info, like this is the login, and this is the password. Okay, so, and let's actually see how this scenario will be run here. Okay, so provided the card code, so it authenticated us, and please provide the card code of the client that you're looking for. Oh sure. So how about, let's say, 100 whatever 7. So now it will try to send the request to the BuildShip, and yeah, so, and get this specific information. Not all the information about the accounts available here. There are and this is again one of the challenges that, let's say they have in the, again, this is the thing with the SAP, so they have 4 or 5 different email fields, and sometimes some customers might have a field like email 4 filled up, but email 1 is not. So again, this is just very old school software, so we would need to, in here, in the JavaScript thing, in the JavaScript code, we would need to structure it a bit differently. Okay, so, but let's say that we have all the information about the customer account here, and we can we could ask the AI to save all the information in one variable, and let's actually do that. I think I was where is it? I was using Claude to do that, extracting from the API response. I think, yeah, so this is the code. So let's ask Claude, okay, it works, but instead of saving the info into separate variables. Can you please save it into one variable called client information, something like that, so that we can reference it in our response AI or set AI blocks as a context. So let's actually create this variable first. Okay, so how's it called? Client information. Okay guys, I'm super tired actually, and this is a huge video. I hope you like it. Please put the like button if you do, because I'm not gonna do any more of these tutorials for like 2 hours. Okay, so response AI. No, client information. Client information. Client information. Now we need to change this. Okay, so we are. It creates the call client extracted information API response. Okay, so let's test it out. So instead of this JavaScript, we'll put this one, and we can just test this. It will send the information, like the request to BuildShip. Sorry, yeah, like it will not. Yeah, so it's 0 because it didn't find the client. So for the card code, let's put 0.1. Okay, so let's try this one. Okay, so it's still 0. Okay guys, I made it work. So this is kind of the script, but again, you will have it in my resource hub. So you will have the template. Please just download it and use it and reference in your project. Now, we have all the information about the customer account and client information variable. So now we can do the response AI step and do some fun stuff. We can say, ask the now let the user know that we successfully retrieved information about the client account, and he can ask any question about the account he wants. And let's say that we'll use like the goal, and then we will use conversation. Okay, so like conversation history, or is it? It's here. Like here's the conversation history for your reference. And we can also say here is the customer account info for your reference. And we can do the same thing, put that inside the tags, but here we will put the client information. Okay, and we need to change the tags. Client information, client information. Okay, so, and let's do the GPT-4o. Let's lower down the temperature. Okay, so now essentially it will ask, so like the user will say, I want to get the information about the account, provide a card code, and then he can simply chat with this bot freely and do whatever he wants to do. So we will, let's say, capture the user response, and then when he provides the response, we can simply update the memory and then kind of answer the user back. Okay, and if we publish this thing, so if it works, right, so we kind of finalized this part, and the only thing is left is to generate the report based on the information about the customer account. And I'll show you how to do that. So like, for example, we like the salesperson, and this is one I mentioned that it's not the use case that they will use, but this is not how they will use it. But we are planning to integrate the report generation system. So for example, they have like a lot of clients and there are a lot of information available for each client. So each month they usually contact the clients and update them on like their information. So what they can do right now, they would be able to do that, is say, okay, so like find this client and generate report based on the client information. It will generate the report with like the balance, with the latest orders, with the latest products, with the overall, money spent. And we can even send it to the client or let the sales agent to download it through the link. Okay, so let's do, hi, I want to get account information. Is it account information or client information? Do you remember the password? Yes. So let's actually test it one more time. Because I know what you might say is that, Eugene, what if the password like doesn't exist, or if they misspell the email, or let's say if they misspell like the card code, if they don't remember the card code. That's why, guys, this solution will cost probably like $10,000+, and we are like still discussing with the client. I think on the like title of this video I mentioned like $9,000, but this is the bare minimum that we're planning to charge. Okay, so this is bad because James Duncan, as you can see, this is bad, but it finalized the conversation. It would need to loop it and say, okay, so try to remember it again. Get client in, get account information. So what I was saying is that obviously this is very complex thing, and there are a lot of different possibilities, and this, like, you're not gonna sell this, right? This is just for the sake of the prototype, to show the client that you can, let's say, connect to the SAP and you know what you're doing, you can build different flows, you understand the logic, all these things, and then you will go on top of that. And obviously these are like, it will go through different iterations. So we'll build a very simplified thing, we'll charge money for it, then they'll like test drive it, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so let's say the client is 1002. Where's the BuildShip? Okay. We don't actually need the BuildShip anymore, I think. Yeah, okay. I'm not sure if I want to like share this, like why would you need that, right? So you don't like have you probably don't have the SAP Business One. So like, tell me in the comments. If you want, I can, send you the template. I'm not even sure if I can share it. Anyways, okay, so let's see. We successfully retrieved information about the client. So what is the client address? So this is the problem, right? So like when we are saying what is the client address, it's mapping to it's like capturing the intent. So like it identify that the intent of the account information, like address, is the part of the account information intent. So that's why it's like looping us back into the specific flow. So what you need to do is you need to like intent scoping only intents in this specific step. Anyways, guys, I think you got the idea. So right, so it got the information, and we'll like finalize it, and I think we'll check it later on, but it should be good. It should be good. We can test it from here. Oh yeah, so it like I input 1002, but still it would do 1001 since I did not update the variables. But let's actually test it from here. Let's see what we get, because we have the debug mode. So we'll see how it, so it updated the variables. As you can see, we have the so if we say what is the client address, so it will say 799 Water Street. 799 Water Street. Okay, so here we will provide the variable card code. Okay, now, so let's actually create another intent called, let's say, when the user will get the information about the account, and we'll say generate report, like trigger this intent when a user want to generate a report. I want to generate a report, whatever, like generate report. Okay, so let's do 10 utterances. Let's create the intent, and here when he will mention this thing, Jesus. Okay, so in the trigger we will use generate the report. So now what we want to do is, let's go back and let's create a simple make scenario using the webhook. So we'll pass some parameters about the customer account. And this is where actually it would be very useful is if we have the information in separate variables, right? So like if we have this info not in one variable that we can pass, that we have it in different variables. Let's actually think how to do it faster. Okay, so custom webhook, whatever. We add the webhook, save, copy, okay, save, start. Okay, so let's go here and let's do the dev API get whatever or post. Okay, so we will trigger this webhook, right? We need to pass the parameters because this is how it's going to be done, guys. We have an app called Documentera. Generate the document. So generate the document. And this is, where is the app? Okay, so this is the app. And I was actually using it for one of the previous videos that I had. So let's say we can create a new template, and this is kind of the templates that we have. So we can like delete everything. And let's say here we can input the variables that we want to use. And let's actually create so that you can see, or like the table, info1, info2, info3, info4. Okay, so in here we want to do the same thing. So we will insert the field 1, insert the field 2, and these are the variables, and you'll see how it's gonna work. Okay, so sample document, create. Let's name it YouTube demo. We create a document. Okay, so this is the document. And now if we go to here, we choose the Word docs, and it's only one report because we just created one. So if we reload it, we have YouTube demo, and we will have like 4 variables that we can map. Okay, so field 1, field 2, field 3, field 4. But now the problem is that since we are passing everything in one variable and not as separate variables, we cannot use it. Okay, so you know what? This is how I would do that if we still like have everything in one variable, and it's gonna be like a hassle. I'm not gonna do that on this video. So I would do the ChatGPT step, ChatGPT. So I would do like the message and assistant or whatever, like probably message just to create a chat completion. Yeah, create a completion. So here's what I would do. So let's say we will pass the client information, right? So we will pass this client information variable that has all the information about the customer account. And we will ask AI, okay, so AI, please analyze this variable and output a JSON. So like from this variable, create the JSON. From like this chunk of data, create the JSON. And it will create the JSON from, you know, the shipping, like the address, the zip code, the account balance, the email as the JSON, and then we can kind of iterate the file and separate them into the bundles or into the separate fields. Okay, so this is how I would do that. But since we do still have the script, I think. Okay, so let's actually go back where I said that. Okay, so this is the script that was saving everything into the separate variables. So here's what we can do. We can just for fun create another script, just duplicate this one. Okay. will do the same thing, right? So it will run this script, it will save all the information into one variable, and then it will like save the same information into the separate variables. What are these variables, just to make sure? And we will pass these variables through this. Okay, so we have address, zip code. Okay, so this is address, zip code, phone, email. So like parameters, we have like address, and this is the address. We have like zip code, whatever, zip code. We have zip code, whatever, what we have else. Let's do the phone and let's do the email address. Okay, so let's do the email and let's do, oh, sorry, it's header. Let's do the phone. Jesus. Okay. Okay. Phone. Phone and email. Okay. So we have all these parameters from this request, and we should be good. We should be good. Now, when we will pass this information, we'll pass it. Okay, so let's actually test this out. Let's see, whatever here, and let's test this one out. We don't actually need to create a document. Okay, so if we test this thing, it should, okay, no, it's not. Let's see. Is it the correct one? I think it is, buddy, raw. Just for the sake of this test. Okay. Sending the request, buddy, 200. Okay, so yeah, we got this info. Now we will create a document and we'll pass this information into these variables in this document. Okay, so like the field 1 will be address, field 2 will be zip code, field 3 will be email, field 4 will be phone. Okay. Now let's run the whole bot and see how it's going to work. Because nothing's gonna be after this. Just okay. So let's publish it and see. Okay, guys. While we're testing, two things again. First link in the description. Resource Hub. It's free. You'll see all the templates. 2. If you like this video, if you like long videos, please let me know. If this video will have 300 views, I am not going to record this shit ever again. Hi. How are you? Get account information. Okay, get account information. Now, we will do this. Okay, so this is the, yes, I remember. So this is the login, and this is the password. Okay. Please provide the card code. Okay, so it should be 1002. Now, we will be able to ask the questions, right? I think. The scenario has been ended. Interesting. Interesting. Why? Yeah, because we did not save this. Okay, guys. Yeah, as you can see, the live builds are always kind of harder to do. I think you understand that. If you do not watch these tutorials, like my tutorials on 2x, I'm not sure what are you doing. Like I would really appreciate if the YouTube add like 3x speed, because I watch everything, literally, like the podcast, the tutorials on 3x all the time. Get account information. Do you remember? Yes. Okay, so awesome. This. Awesome. This. Submit. Okay, a card code. it's 002. It will get the BuildShip. We'll run both of the scripts. We'll save all the variables. Okay, so what is the client address? Just to make sure. We have successfully returned the information about the client. You can ask any questions. Why is that? Oh yeah, because we are not like providing the actual response, I think. Or send me the client information. The client information, please. Okay, so unavailable, business closed, phone number, business address, business closed. What's that? We successfully retrieved the information. If we, let me check. Actually able to see it. So count information. 100%, 100%. It's utterances successfully. Okay, so something is definitely wrong. Okay, so let's I try to identify where is the error. What's the error? Maybe we can do like goal answer last user utterance, something like that. And here in the last utterance and last utterance. Okay. So where is the thing? Because in the card code we are saving the card code, I think. So it should be good. It should be good, I think. Like, do you think we're saving? So we can like verify. So for example, like since we do not have the testing thing here, so what we can do is we, let's say, can the output text and see, just to make sure, you know, like card code before running into here, right? So this way we will know that it's returning the right value. Okay, so like card code will verify the card code, because if we run it from here, 1002, if we run it from here, it should work. Let's see. Yeah, so it got not available. Okay, maybe it's the maybe that's the problem with the client. Let's actually see 0.1. Yeah, so this is okay. Yeah, so this is the problem with the client 1002. Again, guys, SAP Business One, right? So there's like millions and billions of different parameters, so you cannot just, you know, the one email. It does, like, obviously this business is not closed. Probably this information is available somewhere in the depth of SAP. Okay, so we'll keep that. Let's like, we can generate the report from here, from this one, but since we don't have any, we have the phone number, so I think you'll like see how it's gonna work. So if we say generate a report, something like that, so it's waiting, right? So it's waiting, but it was not triggered since, or it was. This is the problem, guys. Okay, since this here, right? So this here, intent scoping, it doesn't have the, like, it's not scoping for the intents, so we cannot like access this specific thing. Okay, so let's do button to capture the response. Okay, so let's go to button. intent. No, this is the bad thing. Because the problem is that you cannot like do both the button and the intent, the wait for the last user utterance. Okay, so let's disable it for right now. How I would do that in the real use case, I'm not sure how we did it in the actual prototype, whatever, like it was like a few weeks ago. So probably, yeah, probably, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Okay, so let's redo that. Start a new, get account information. Yes. So let's copy this info. Let's copy this info. Let's paste it here. Okay. Provide a card code. Let's say 001. Let's see. Yeah, so 001, this is to make sure that it output the right code. So this is the information. Awesome. So now let's say I want to generate a report. Actually, it will trigger this scenario right away. So let's actually stop it, and it should do that. Okay. So now it created the document and we have it here, and this is the document. Let's try to access it. We downloaded the document and we are opening okay, so since I'm sharing the screen, you are not able to see it, I think. Okay. How do I show it to you guys? Google Drive. Okay, so let me Google Drive. Just so that you see that it's working. Okay, and we're not gonna, okay, let's from the downloads, let me put it here, YouTube demo. Or is it retrieve streamline? Okay, so go. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, this is the like info one, and this is the variable for the address. This is the variable for the if we go here for the zip code, edit the template, edit the template, and they don't have the email obviously in this specific variable, but they have the phone number, so it's like here. And yep, so if we go here, this is it. Okay guys, so I hope you like this video. Oh my god, I think this is the longest video on my channel. I'm not sure if any one of you will like ever listen to this word, so I guess I appreciate you watching the whole thing. So please subscribe to the channel, put a like. It's already 9 p.m. here. So I hope you liked it. Thank you for watching. Peace.